Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, November 19th, 2023 in the Space and Time Continuum. And this week we had more revelation from MAGA Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House. He thinks that we're in the end times. He thinks that the United States, our country, is in really bad shape. He thinks God hates us. And he's wondering if God's going to give us another chance or if he's going to destroy us. Because God is an angry old man. And if you smite him, he will destroy you. That's what Christianity in America is today. I know there are sects that don't say that. But he also thinks that the Bible comes before the Constitution. And he thinks that we should be he thinks we are a Christian nation. So let's go back. Are we really a Christian nation? Were we really founded on Christianity? In the text of the Constitution, religion was deliberately kept at arm's length from the state in radical departures from the era's norms. There would be no religious tests for federal office holders, no establishment of any national religion, and no congressional interference with individual citizens' free exercise of their own faith. A lot of that is part of the First Amendment. We will not have a national religion because we were breaking away from England. Under England, in the colonies, we were sort of a Christian nation because England was a Christian nation. The king is the head of the Church of England. In the Federalist Papers, for instance, James Madison challenged the idea that religion and politics would lead men to cooperate for their common good and asserted instead that it would make them vex and oppress each other. Accordingly, Madison praised the new Constitution for keeping faith out of federal office holding, which would welcome individuals of every description, whether native or adoptive, whether young or old, and without regard to poverty or wealth, or to any particular profession of religious faith. If the founders had not made their stance on this Christian nation issue clear enough in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers, they certainly did in the 1797 Treaty of Tripoli, begun by George Washington, signed by John Adams. George Washington, the President of the United States at the time, John Adams, the Vice President, and ratified unanimously by a Senate still half filled with signers of the Constitution. This treaty announced firmly and flatly to the world that the government of the United States of America is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion. It says that in the treaty. Despite the founders' intent, later generations of Americans began to assert that the country they created was indeed Christian. That goes on over and over again, of course, by the Christians, the far-right Christians, not your normal Christian. And by the way, people who claim to be Christian is plummeting in this country and has been for a long time, for decades actually, but in the last 15 or less years, it has plummeted immensely. And still, the vast majority of Christians who still claim to be Christians don't think that this is a Christian nation. But people like Mike Johnson wants this to be a Christofascist state. That's what Republicans are going for. Donald Trump is mimicking Hitler. They want fascism. Let's go now way back in the early 1960s. Barry Goldwater. A lot of people back then thought he was crazy, far right. He lost in the 1964 election overwhelmingly because people thought he was nuts. It was the beginning of another very heavy Christian movement getting mixed up in government. And what Barry Goldwater said, I'm going to quote him exactly now, "Mark my word, if and when these preachers get control of the Republican Party, and they're sure trying to do so, it's going to be a terrible damn problem. Frankly, these people frighten me. Politics and governing demand compromise, but these Christians believe they are acting in the name of God, so they can't and won't compromise. I know. I've tried to deal with them." That's Barry Goldwater. Back then. Let's go to a week ago. Some wise words by Representative Jamie Raskin is on the Jen Psaki show. Jen Psaki asks, "Is this a problem that Mike Johnson says it's the Bible first and the Constitution second?" Here's Jamie Raskin's answer.
When we take our oath of office, we put our hand on the Bible and we swear to uphold the Constitution. We don't put our hand on the Constitution and swear to uphold the Bible. The Constitution is the governing document of the country. And we, of course, have a multiplicity of faiths, and people can choose their faith or no faith at all. And that's what Jefferson and Adams and Madison fought for with the American Revolution and the Declaration and the Constitution. I mean, the great breakthrough of the American Constitution was to rebel against centuries of religious conflict, the wars between the Catholics and the Protestants, and Inquisition and Crusade and witchcraft trials and all of that. They said, we want to put government on a secular principle, which is no establishment of religion, no religious test for public office, and free exercise. Everybody can worship exactly as he or she pleases. But I've got colleagues who get up. One got up not long ago and said the moral downfall of America was in 1962 with Engel versus Vitale, where the Supreme Court banned prayer in the public schools. And I had to remind him, no, the Supreme Court never banned prayer in the public schools. As long as there are pop math quizzes, there will be prayer in the public schools, right? All the Supreme Court said in Engel versus Vitale is that the government can't compel you to pray according to a script that the government writes. And that case was from New York. The suit was brought by Catholic families saying that there was a Protestant prayer that was being imposed on everybody. And of course, that's the great argument, or one of the great arguments, for the separation of church and state and no establishment of religion. What happens is one church gets control of the governmental process and then imposes its theological orthodoxy and discipline on everybody else.
And that's why it's in place.
Also, currently, the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church voted Saturday to accept the decision of 261 congregations to leave the denomination over a divide on LGBTQ issues. For reasons of conscience regarding a change in the requirements and provisions of the Book of Discipline related to the practice of homosexuality or the ordination or marriage of self-avowed practicing homosexuals. As of early August 2023, over 6,000 congregations in the United States UMC have left because of dissatisfaction for how they are treating LGBTQ people. They don't want any LGBTQ people basically alive, but they won't allow any LGBTQ people to be in leadership in the church or anything like that. It strengthened its bans on LGBTQ. So they're losing their own congregations, not to mention individual people. That's what's going on in modern day religion. Many reasons contribute. Some of the reasons is the Christian church is very intolerant of people. What are you going to do? I mentioned Trump and Hitler, right? 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job once and for all. Pints and coughing. You know who else talks like that, of course, right? Yeah. Hitler. Hitler and Trump. Hitler and Trump. And also last week, more Hitler language. Hitler, I will get rid of the communist vermin. Trump, I will get rid of the communist vermin. Hitler, I will take care of the enemy within. Trump, I will take care of the threat from within. Hitler, Jews and migrants are poisoning Aryan blood. Trump, migrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Hitler, one people, one realm, one leader. Trump, one people, one family, one glorious nation. He's not hiding it. He's hearing people calling him Hitler. He's hearing people pointing out that Republicans have become Nazis. He's hearing it, and he's not stopping. This is where the Republicans want to take us. They want to take us to 1930s Germany is where they want to take us. Also, and this is kind of funny, the Republicans think that right now, I mean, they want the country's future to be 1930s Germany, but right now, they think that the Capitol building is a junior high school, and it's lunch break all the time. Kevin McCarthy elbowing a guy, I can't remember his name, doesn't matter, elbowing a guy in the back, a fellow Republican legislator. He elbows him in the back, in the kidney. And then the guy starts following McCarthy. Hey, Kevin, why'd you do that? Why'd you elbow me? I didn't elbow you. Shut up. Yes, you did. Shut up. No, I didn't. And then some other meathead Republican trying to start a fight in a committee hearing. He's a senator. You said anytime, any place. Well, right here is a time and a place. Okay, let's go then. Okay, stand your butt up. No, you stand your butt up. This is actual language during a committee hearing. And then the guy does stand his butt up, and then Bernie is there. Bernie Sanders is the chair of the committee, and he's like, no, sit down. You are a senator. You are a senator. Sit down. I mean, it's lunchtime in the junior high. It's just absolutely asinine. These people are not adults. We need to make sure that these things don't happen. We need to make sure that the power is relinquished from the Republican Party. Everybody's scared about polling. You've heard me say it a million times. But we're going to talk more about it, not just polling. There's a whole bunch of reasons that we should look forward to 2024 in a positive manner. We need to stay diligent, and we need to vote. We need to support our candidates. If you can't give money, vote. As long as we vote, we will win, and we will take power away from the Republicans. We will keep the Senate, we will get the House back, and we will keep the White House. I feel very confident. There are even Republicans who are starting to realize that they're in trouble. So when we come back, and I have a lot of clips to play you, it's very interesting. Things are changing, and it is getting very interesting. We still have almost a year until Election Day, but things are getting very interesting. And we'll come back and talk about that after a short break on A Satellite View. Satellite View. Hope you like the music. If you do, go to toddmikkelson.com, press the music link, and you can find this music and tons more original music that I've recorded throughout the years. I used to work in music. Here's a BFD, man. A big effing deal. For the first time in 40 years, the U.S. economy is outpacing China's economy as China's economy slips 64% to the U.S. economy. Where's the news reports? Too busy stoking fear and feeding the outrage machine. But we're here, we're reporting it. And this is a lot because of President Joe Biden. Very capable, of course. I mean, he's done the most since at least FDR of any president. Getting things done, saving the economy from a catastrophe of a pandemic. Joe Biden is going to win in 2024. Are you worried about the polls? Are you worried about how everybody's talking about how Joe Biden's going to lose to Donald Trump? Let's, again, go back in time. November 3rd, 2011. This is an article by Jim Messina. He was the campaign manager for Barack Obama in 2011. He writes, as you walk into my office, the first thing you see is a framed magazine cover. It's not from the days of triumph, like in November 2012 when President Barack Obama won 4 more years by 5 million votes in a campaign that I ran, speaking as Jim Messina. No, it's from a dark day during that re-election campaign back in 2011 when Nate Silver declared our campaign and President Obama toast. A lot of Democrats romanticize the 2012 Obama campaign, but if you were there, you know it was a knockdown, drag-out battle, not just with Republicans, but with bad media narratives. One such narrative hit us on November 3rd, 2011, when the New York Times Magazine published an analysis giving Obama a 17% chance to win re-election. When that magazine hit my desk, I knew it was trouble, not because I believed it, but because of the anxiety it would stir up. Immediately, we had donors, elected officials, and my mom absolutely freaked out. We couldn't get supporters to rallies. People were calling on me to be fired. I was reminded of this moment last week after a Times Siena poll of 6 battleground states showed that if the election were held today, Donald Trump would easily beat Joe Biden. Democrats naturally got very anxious. So that's what was going on a year before Obama's re-election in 2012. Now let's talk about voter turnout. Voter turnout has been intensely amazing, record-breaking, especially with young people. And we're going to talk about how the young people are not a part of these polls that we keep seeing. But first, we're going to talk about voter turnout. Here is Jessica Tarlov on Fox News. She is a progressive person that they have on this stupid show of theirs called The Five. He's on with Jesse Waters, for one. This is an exchange with Jesse Waters and Jessica Tarlov.
So abortion and cash, Jessica, is that the story of last night?
And pot.
And pot. Yeah. Abortion, cash,
don't
and pot.
forget about our marijuana. No, that's not the only story. The main headline is Democrats continue to overperform in the Biden era. It's just, you can't dispute it. It is blowing the polling out of the water. Republicans haven't really had a good showing since Trump won in 2016. And they really, and I know that there are a lot of them, deeply conservative people that are coming around to the idea that Donald Trump loses himself elections and he loses the people that he endorses elections.
Well, they took the House in 2000, right?
2020.
20, yeah.
Yeah,
2020.
by 3 seats. So remember it was 2022.
16.
That was your red wave. Remember when you said, I'm getting a 40-seat wave, and then you got 3 seats and a George Santos?
Oh, don't remind me.
And by the way, it's looking like George Santos is going to be expelled next week. That's what all the predictions are. Now let's talk about polling. So NBC found about 141 people between the age of 18 to 29, called them in their latest poll released today. Here's what NBC doesn't tell you. Research shows that 9 out of 10 Gen Zers would rather text than phone call. I'm sorry, but if your polling method of Gen Z is calling, then we should all be skeptical. When they react through online surveys, then they're a part of that survey. So Gen Z reacts to online surveys, puts Biden way ahead of Trump. But phone polls, everybody's scared because Trump is going to win. That's how this polling is working. It's not. That's why Nate Silver was so off. That's why the New York Times Magazine was so off in 2011. This kind of polling has been off for years and years and years. phone call polling does not work anymore. And that's the polls that everybody's being scared of. Stop it. Like I said, we got to stop watching the horse race. We got to pay attention to all the stuff Biden is doing, all the good things that are happening with our economy, inflation going down, gas prices going down, unemployment rates are at the lowest in more than 50 years. Here is special correspondent for Vanity Fair and host of Fast Politics podcast, Molly Jong Fast, talking about polling. The guy you hear at the beginning is Ali Velshi. It's on his show, and he asks Molly Jong Fast this question.
What do you make of the difference between the polls and the votes?
Look, again, these polls are small. They're people who pick up their cell phones, 3,000 people. This last poll was in 6 states. Those are the states that Biden needs to win to stay in office. But I have a lot of pollster friends. I interview them. I talk to them. They are convinced that this method still works. This method has, of course, been wrong in 23 and 22. Remember the red wave midterm, wrong in 2020. So I do think national polls and even these larger presidential polls, people like to complain to pollsters. We're seeing that a lot. And I'm just not convinced that we're getting an accurate sense.
Another factor, okay? We're talking about how bad predictions have been going all the way back to 2011, talking about voter turnout being just over the top. And when that happens, the vast majority of the country is liberal. So they vote for Democrats. That's why Republicans don't want voter turnout. That's why they keep trying to suppress voter turnout. We went back to 2011, showed you how wrong everybody was about Obama, talked about voter turnout. We talked about the polls. Now, you need to have the party in good shape or you cannot run elections. So if you remember back in May, the Republican Party of Minnesota released their financials and they had $8 in their bank. Okay? You thought after I said 8, I was going to say $80,000. No, I didn't. I said $8. You thought maybe I was going to say $8,000. Nope. 800? No. They don't even have $80. They had $8 in their account, along with $335,000 of debt. In Arizona, the state GOP chairman has been begging the Republican National Committee for a financial bailout. Michigan party officials have gotten into physical fights as their finances have dipped into the red. And in Georgia, the state party is in a standoff with the Republican governor and saddled with legal fees for alternate electors put forward in 2020. They got to use their money to fight legal fees. That's happening in Wisconsin as well. In each of these 2024 battlegrounds, election denial and grassroots fervor for Donald Trump have rocked the Republican apparatus. Now, the state parties are plagued by infighting, struggling to raise money, and sometimes to cover legal costs stemming from Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 defeat, threatening to hamper GOP organizing capabilities in next year's presidential election. Yeah. You cannot run elections when you're out of money. Another thing that you need money for is to gather data. We got a fundraising letter here in my house from the head of the Republican House caucus. You think we're going to give them any money? That was a waste of money for them to send us a letter. That's what happens when you don't have data. You waste money. If you have money to spend, you waste it. So the little money that they have, and they're going deeper in debt, and they're not doing any good with the money that they're spending. And they're just way off. Here is a surprising clip from Fox News, that same show, The Five. If you remember Jeanine Pirro, she's the crazy lady who always seems like she's drunk on a box of wine. I think she used to be a judge or a lawyer or something. But she usually just talks crazy. She's, of course, a MAGA, not in real life, but on TV. You know, Fox News actually hates Donald Trump, but they pretend they love him on TV. Here's what Jeanine Pirro had to say after the elections from last week.
So, Jeanine.
I look at it a little simpler. to me, it was about Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, Pennsylvania. Purple states, 2 red states, Democrats winning. And the issue of abortion is one that Republicans either have to get straight on or they're going to lose on it. And the way they lose, they can't ignore it. They can't make believe it's not there. So the question is, how do you handle it? Well, it's not really how the Republicans handle it, because right now they don't have 60 votes in the Senate. So stop trying to pass a federal legislation. It's not going to happen. You're creating unnecessary turmoil for Republican candidates down the ticket. The truth is that when Bashir went out there and he brought, and I prosecuted those cases with the 12-year-old girls and the 10-year-old girls. You know, Cameron, who is a great AG, supported not just by Trump, but supported by McConnell. He tried to change his, go a little more left. It didn't matter. Women want freedom. And what's going to happen is that dozens of states are literally going to put these abortion initiatives, I don't care what you call it, privacy, I don't care. They know what they're reading, and they're going to win on that. And Republicans have to understand this is not an issue they win on. This happened in 2022. It's 2023, and 2024 is right around the corner.
Again, this is Jeanine Pirro, a MAGAT Republican, starting to realize what's going on. Another thing, people are getting nervous because of groups of people saying that they're not going to support Biden. The people saying that Biden's too old, so we need to find an alternative. That's just a bunch of BS. If you vote for anybody other than Biden, you are voting for Trump. You are voting for Nazis. You are voting to turn America into 1930s Germany. Period. Any of these groups, the reason that they're turning on Biden is because of what's going on in the Israeli-Gaza struggle right now. So these people are actually quite progressive people who are turning on Biden because of that. They're saying they're turning on Biden now. You think they're going to vote for Trump? They're going to vote for Biden. People who think Biden's too old, they're going to vote for Biden. So don't get nervous about, we're losing all these votes. No, we're not. We're not losing those votes. And a big reason is because Trump is falling apart. He's talking like Hitler. He's forgetting things. He's losing, talk about losing your cognitive skills. This is why the Republicans talk about that with Joe Biden. I don't see any evidence of that happening with Joe Biden. He's doing tons of speeches and stuff. He sounds fine to me. The people who say he can't finish a sentence are not listening to him. They're not being exposed to Biden. You got to dig for it because the media won't talk about Biden for some reason. I don't know why. They love talking about Trump. Trump is falling apart. He's going to be on trial on Election Day. It looks very likely. Fani Willis in Georgia has set a date she's requesting of the judge for August 5th, 2024. She said it's going to obviously take months because it's a huge case, the RICO case that's going to get all the way to Trump. That trial is going to be going on Election Day. She doesn't care. That trial's not really going to matter because he's going to be convicted in April or May. He's going to go to prison next summer or spring. He's going to be convicted of these crimes, and it's not just me now. This is a Republican former governor and lawyer, Chris Christie.
Let me tell you, as someone who ran the 5th largest prosecuting office in this country for 7 years and had a 130-0 record in political corruption cases, Donald Trump is going to be convicted this spring of these crimes. And we cannot, as a Republican Party, have a felon as our nominee.
All right. He's not just talking as a person. He's talking as a lawyer. He knows how this is going to go. I'm not trying to brag when I predict something correctly. And by the way, I haven't predicted this correctly yet. But more and more people are saying things that I have been saying for weeks and months. When I point that out, I'm not trying to say, see, I do before everyone else. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to help us all stay focused on the right things, trying to help us all argue for the good things and against the bad things, trying to help by doing research, following good people like Simon Rosenberg, who really know what's going on with polling, and Victor Shi and Molly Jong Fast, and people who know what's going on in reality, not the horse race, not what we're being told in the media. The media does their reporting a lot for profits. They love talking about Trump. They love everybody having their hair on fire. They love everybody being scared and upset because it makes them watch their show. And then they can get more advertising. That's their main goal. So be careful where you get your information. I'm trying to get the best information, the most accurate information from people who really know what's going on and try and get the word out. And that's why I very much appreciate you listening to A Satellite View. That's what I'm trying to do. So when I say last summer now, when I said, I don't think Trump's going to be the candidate, I'm not trying to say, yeah, I knew it last summer. I'm trying to help you understand what's going on when you really pay attention here. Trump is not going to be president of the United States ever again. I personally think we're not going to have a Republican president possibly ever again. There is reason to be optimistic. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen next year. I think it's going to be very entertaining and fun to watch the actual truth unfold. And that's why some of these changes are going on. That's why Republicans are starting to talk like this, like you heard Jeanine Pirro talk and Chris Christie. They're starting to realize, the real world is going to be at the top of the news. So let's try and stay ahead of it. A lot of shifting going on. People now starting to say on TV why the polling is bad. It's starting to happen. Next year is going to be fun to watch. We're coming back. The country's coming back from this long catastrophe caused by Donald Trump and Republicans. Not just Donald Trump. He's a symptom of what was already going on with the Republican Party. And now the Republicans are stuck with him. And they're going to get creamed. It's going to be a Republican bloodbath in November of 2024. Just like it was in November of 2023 and 2022. I know they gained the House back, but they were supposed to gain it back by 40 seats. And instead they got, 4 seats and a George Santos, who's going to get thrown out of Congress next week. Anyway, all right. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it very much. Please tell your friends about the podcast, and let's spread the word far and wide. Let's stick together. Let's stay optimistic. Let's work hard, and if you can't work hard or give money, vote. If you vote, we win. Period. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.